Hello, I'm Doug Shear, and I'm happy to welcome you to Byrdcliffe Forum, a project of the Woodstock Byrdcliffe Guild in Woodstock, New York. Join us on Monday, September 14th at 5 p.m. for the next edition of Woodstock Masters, featuring Heather Hutchinson, interviewed by art critic Eleanor Hartney. Save that date. This Zoom event is the first Art World panel of this new series we're calling Galleries of the Hudson Valley, featuring artist and writer Lynn Woods as moderator. It's being conducted on Monday, August 17th, 2020 at 5 p.m. Comments made by speakers or by questioners will reflect their opinions and thoughts and are not those of Byrdcliffe Forum, the Woodstock Byrdcliffe Guild, its staff, or volunteers. We are admitting you to listen to and see the event intended to last between 75 and 90 minutes, but not to appear. Your brief questions or comments are invited at the end in a 10-minute time slot. To submit them, use text within the chat function, which you can find at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Lynn will then select some and read them to the speakers. You may include your name if you wish. This event is being recorded and will be archived. Lynn Woods, today's moderator, has interviewed dozens of artists, curators, and other influential people in the regional art scene for Chronogram, Almanac Weekly, Hudson River Museum and Gallery Guide, and Hudson Valley One. She co-directed and co-produced Lost Roundout, a story of urban removal, an hour-long documentary about the 1960s urban renewal project that devastated Kingston's waterfront district. And she co-authored Adirondack Style, Great Camps and Rustic Lodges for Universe Books in 2009. Lynn.
Thanks, Doug. And thank you to everyone for joining us. We're very grateful to have the participation of 4 terrific panelists: Linden Scheff, co-director of Carrie Haddad in Hudson; Jennifer Hicks, owner of 11 Jane Street Art Center and the J.J. Newberry Building in Saugerties; Alan Goolman, curator of the Lockwood Gallery in Kingston; and Franklin Parrasch, co-owner of Parts and Labor in Beacon. Last month, Hudson Valley Magazine published an article entitled "The Coronavirus Hits Hudson Valley Galleries Hard," which highlighted the unprecedented challenges facing these linchpins of the regional cultural scene. The article reported how the lack of foot traffic and restricted funds have caused many galleries to close and others to switch to their operations online. The 4 galleries represented here today are the exception. All have opened their doors, while of course abiding by the safety requirements of having visitors wear a mask and social distance. They're not only helping revive Main Street by being open, but also giving artists, many of whom have suffered tremendously from the pandemic, a place to show their work. In today's panel discussion, each galleryist will provide an overview of their gallery, their business model, and their blueprint for survival in a changed world. They'll each have from 10 to 15 minutes. And I encourage you to check out the current show at each of the galleries and plan a visit. So we'll start from north, moving south with Linden Scheff. Carrie Haddad opened her gallery in Hudson in 1991. What started out as an artist co-op of roughly 20 artists thrived. Today, almost 30 years later, the gallery hosts 7 exhibits a year featuring painting, photography, and sculpture. Several artists who first exhibited with Carrie in 1991 are still represented there today. Linden came to Carrie Haddad in 2012 and was made director in 2014. Born and raised in the Hudson Valley, she returned to the area after completing her studies in Paris and working in television production in Manhattan. Today, she manages all aspects of the gallery with her co-director, Lena Peterson. Linden, the floor is yours.
Hello, thank you so much, Lynn. It's really wonderful to be here this evening, and I think this is an important topic to talk about in the art world in Hudson Valley, and I'm really delighted to share this time with the other panelists. So as Lynn said, my name is Linden and I'm originally from Germantown. And I'll just start just by sharing a little bit of Carrie Haddad's history and how she opened up the gallery. Originally, Carrie Haddad Gallery was opened at 316 Warren Street in 1991. So this spring we'll be celebrating 30 years of representing artists of the region. And when she opened in 1991, there were no other art galleries on Warren Street. It was a bit, Warren Street was pretty run down, actually. It's kind of gone through many different evolutions. But when she first started, there were no other art galleries. But Carrie will tell you that the art dealers, the antique dealers were really the true pioneers of Hudson, the people who came to Warren Street and opened up shops and really began to cultivate a buying community, designers and different people seeking high-end items coming from New York and all over. So when she opened the gallery in 1991 at 316 Warren Street, it started as an artist co-op. She worked with about 20 artists, and several of them we still show here at the gallery today. And it was, I believe, they paid a small fee in order to show their work. And Carrie will say that nothing was in the gallery that was over $500. And they sold something the very first day that they opened, and Carrie saw a real possibility for having a venue here in Hudson, and she saw the demand. And the gallery then, 3 years later, moved into this building where I am now at 622 Warren Street, and kind of switched gears and became operational as a more traditional, 50-50 artist dealer relationship after several years. And so I think during that period, there were artists that were kind of coming from mostly the Hudson Valley, some from the Capital Region. She also began to work with people that were in New York City, but it was a range of painting, photography, sculpture, different mixed media works, and they just had a lot of really incredible shows, and the whole community kind of would turn out for their openings, and it was a big deal. I was pretty young back in 1991, but the time following that, also the other big initiative in Hudson that had a huge impact was the Hudson City Arts Walk. So at that time, not a lot of traffic in Hudson, and Carrie initiated the Hudson City Art Walks as a way of putting artwork in abandoned building storefronts, and it really generated a lot more foot traffic of people coming to Hudson and making it known for its art scene. And there was a time there were, I think 30 to 40 galleries were on Warren Street, and some of them were Peter Young, John Davis, of course, who is no longer here. He left and sold his building, and a different artist, Pamela Salisbury, has actually taken over that space, which is really exciting. But there is a great group of galleries that have been holding it down here on Warren Street for a long time. So I guess what you see on your screen, this is actually an image of our current exhibit. We did reopen. This is the second show that we've hung since coming back down from the lockdown. Paintings featured there are by an artist named Vincent Emilio that Carrie started showing more than 15 years ago, and he is still with us. I would say that our experience navigating the whole COVID-19 situation, a lot of it was we just saw the usefulness of having an online presence. Back in 2013, we signed up for a website called First Dibs, and back then it was kind of unheard of that anyone would be buying artwork completely sight unseen. I mean, it was like, it just felt like this is never gonna work. But when I joined and became more and more with the day-to-day operations, we really expanded that online presence to encompass a couple of different websites. And so a lot of the traffic that we see and a lot of the sales that we make today are really originating from online. And in a way, it's really wonderful because we can reach people who otherwise would never be able to step foot in this gallery in Hudson. And we ship things to Thailand and to California. I mean, they would go all over the place. But on the other hand, it's also a little bit sad because some pieces are just, the experience of viewing art in person is, there's not really a real replacement for that. Yeah, the online aspect of our business has really been what has carried us through these last couple of months, that we've had, much decreased foot traffic on Warren Street. And after this weekend, though, I hope things are starting to turn around. I was here on Sunday, and we had a really nice flow of people coming through. We sold a couple pieces from the show, which was nice. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm hoping that people will soon feel more encouraged to come out. But, you know, it's a scary time, and I don't blame people for wanting to avoid indoor visits. But, yeah, Lynn, was there anything else that you wanted me to touch on?
Well, so Linden, Carrie Haddad represents a lot of artists. Can you give us a ballpark figure of how many artists you represent?
Yeah, we actively work with about 65 artists, and we typically, the way our exhibition schedule works is that our gallery space is quite large, so we don't often do solo exhibits. Most of our shows are group shows. For example, we have 5 artists in this exhibit that will be running 8 weeks. And so most artists have to wait usually about 2 years before they have an exhibit.
Wow. And can you tell us a little bit more about the current show? I think it's called Pattern Play.
Yes, Pattern Play. So in this exhibit, this piece, for example, this is a wooden wall sculpture by artist Stephen Walling, who lives in Germantown. Carrie's been showing his work for about 12 or 15 years. He is, I think, in his mid-80s now. And he's very popular. We work with a large base of interior designers, and his work is really popular with that crowd. Another artist in this show is Donis English, and she's a teacher at Marist, and she's really wonderful. She has a mixture of some paper sculptures that are coated in caustic, as well as some works on paper. That tall black piece that we see there, that is by her. And then the other artist in the front room is Susan Stover, who's actually an artist based in San Francisco, which is where Carrie Haddad is originally from. And we've been showing Susan's work for a couple of years, and she's doing these cardboard quilted pieces.
Really gorgeous. Also, you mentioned online. You know, I've been reading that a lot of people are predicting the death of the traditional retail gallery, that art fairs become much more important in selling art as well as online. So I just wonder, you know, what the future is. I mean, are your online sales eclipsing what you sell from the space?
Well, I'll have to reassess that for 2020. As of 2019, we were still, more than half of our sales were still originating from a gallery, what I call a gallery lead. So someone from our mailing list, someone from our direct mailing, as opposed to like an online Google search or from First Dibs. I think 2020 is going to show that that has changed. We were supposed to do an art fair in New York City in March that was canceled right before the lockdown happened. So that was one of the first art shows that I was going to do since I've been here. So I didn't have a chance to see, you know, what that experience was like, but we will plan to do some of those in the future. But I think for the physical space, Carrie has been here for so long, and I know that this physical brick and mortar location is so imperative to what it is that we do here, because hanging, there's no replacement for being able to hang the work on a wall and to see it in context of an exhibit with another artist or with other work from that same series. And we're also a place where, I mean, I almost feel like as much sometimes at this desk that we're a bit of a concierge service for Hudson. When people come in and we strike up conversations about what else is going on in town or what else they should see during their visit. And I love the fact that this place is often a meeting place for people. It's like, oh, we'll meet at Carrie Haddad Gallery. We have that all the time. And I think there's no real replacement for that. So I think as long as we're around, I'm definitely sure that Carrie will keep a physical location here on Warren Street. It's really important.
Right. And my last question is related to what you just said. I mean, it's unusual for a gallery in this area to be around so long. I mean, I've seen so many galleries, excellent galleries, come and go. So I guess the secret to your longevity, maybe you've already answered that question, but it is remarkable that she's been able to survive and prosper, I guess, almost 30 years.
Yeah, it is incredible. I think that, you know, Carrie was smart. I think the people that she appointed to help her, there was a director for a while named Melissa Stafford who worked at this gallery for several years. And I think it's, you know, I've now been with the gallery for 8 years. My co-director, Lena, has been here 7 years. We've all gotten to know and really love the artist. Carrie's enthusiasm for what she does is incredibly contagious. And so I think she's not only invested in her artists that are the reason that this business exists today. But I also feel that she's really invested in the staff and the people who maintain the gallery and help curate the exhibits and, you know, make the sales. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, and I think she's just made some really great decisions. And I mean, the artists that she shows are unparalleled. I think that we have we work with some of the greatest artists in this area, and yeah, that definitely attributes to success.
Well, thank you so much, Linden. That was really great, and it looks like a gorgeous show. I can't wait to get up there.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so now we're going to move down to Saugerties. Painter and performance artist Jennifer Hicks. Can you hear me, everyone? Okay. Painter and performance artist Jennifer Hicks moved from Boston to Saugerties in 2015 and bought a historic brick building in the village. In April 2019, she opened 11 Jane Street Art Center, which has 3 galleries. Jennifer also owns the J.J. Newbury building at 236 Main Street, which hosts large-scale projects. 11 Jane Street is described on its website as, quote, an artist-owned and operated art complex dedicated to experimental cross-disciplinary projects, including installation, performance, multimedia, and more. Our newly renovated classic brick buildings feature innovative new works and works in progress, art-incubated residencies, gallery exhibitions, classes, lectures, and events. That's a lot. And I was actually at your gallery last night at that incredible performance, which was my first performance I've been to in 5 months. So that was great. So anyway, let me introduce Jennifer. You have the floor.
Okay. Well, thank you. First of all, thank you, Byrdcliffe, and thank you, Lynn, for introducing us and hosting this. I really appreciated being included in this talk because we just opened. It's been a long road. I have a very long history of performance art and fine arts, teaching, painting myself, and I'm an artist. And when I moved to this area, I still had the deep love for those big, awesome brick buildings, and I found one. And I thought, well, this would be cool. I'll just have my own painting studio here and this would be awesome. But as we kept going during the full renovation, it morphed into actually incredible gallery space. So I kind of fell into being a gallerist. That wasn't my original intention, although I've had a lot of experience running performance venues. So that moved forward into buying the Newbury building. And so now I'm trying to manage both of them. And we have a space across the street for the artist residency. COVID has put a bit of a cramp in some plans, as you know, but the general overview is to have artists who are either invited or they apply. They have about 6 weeks to create new work. Or they create a cross-pollinated work that has a performance element in it somehow, whether that is a film, lecture, as you saw last night. Even though I have a group show, I've also got several performance elements involved in the group show. So Tracy Cockrell had a experimental music performance. So that was an interesting experiment in itself, trying to get people in the room with social distancing and sound to work and all the rest that goes in with a performance. So let's see, what else? We've got, since we've got
I just want to break in. I want to break in, Jennifer, and just mention that J.J. Newbury was the former 5 and 10.
Yes.
So the building is enormous.
It's huge. It's 10,000 square feet. It's giant. So 11 Jane Street itself is basically finished. We've got the handicap ramp. We've got a little courtyard outside. We'll be able to have small events inside and small events outside. The Newbury building is still in progress under some kind of renovations. So we'll be opening and then we'll close for a bit to do some more renovations, open up again, and kind of back and forth that way until we finally get the whole thing done. That building is definitely a work in progress as far as even what I show there. At the moment, we have a group show that consists of, it's called Read to Me, and it's sculptors, painters, performance artists who also work with objects who they've created, filmmaker who's also working with an installation space. And as I said, we're going to close in the next month, and then we're going to open up again with a group show that I'll put a call out for pretty soon. Let's see what else I can tell you. We have also online events. So we've got artist interviews that are going to be online. We just kind of diving into that. Tracy Cockrell was August 12th, and it's on the website and on Facebook. So we were doing artist interviews. Ian Mitchell was last night. Melinda Stickney-Gibson is going to be on Wednesday. Norm Magnuson is August 23rd. William Greenwood is the 26th, and my own work is going to be on August 30th.
So let me ask you, when we spoke on the phone, you do something a little unusual, is you do artist residencies.
Yeah.
Can you just tell us briefly about, you have space at 11 Jane Street for the studio space for them, or to house them, or both?
Both. So again, thinking of it as a large picture. So as we just opened, things are shifting around a bit, but we have a residency across the street. It's a great small Victorian house that we can house 3 artists with a shared kitchen, shared bathroom. But being right across the street means that they can work and go back and have a 24-hour access to the studio space. The studio space works in various ways. And again, we've only just opened. I've had 3 artists in residence. We've had Reese Johansson from New Orleans, who's a dancer and performance artist. She had the space. I have a studio dance space in the back. So she was in the space basically 24/7 her entire time, working on a piece that she just came off a residency in Amsterdam with. And so she wanted to continue it and work with the community in Saugerties with it. So she did that performance and also did a lecture afterwards. We had Andrew Newman, who is from Boston. Andrew is a video artist and sculptor, and a filmmaker. So what he did is he worked with his sculptural videos and then did a live performance with the videos, which is a little hard to describe, but it was audience interactive and also partly lecture and partly experiential. Then we have Michael Pope, and Michael Pope is a filmmaker. He's also a pioneer in transmedia storytelling, and Michael is working with a recent project called Cinematica, and it's a site-specific screenplay, which means it's a piece that he has, it's a film, but it's also a physical experience for the audience, so the audience can come in and be inside the installation of the film, if that makes sense. So you take the script, you open it up, and you are inside of the script.
Wow, it sounds like that great film, Synecdoche.
Yes, except it's a bit different. It's quite a bit different. So the residents are, so far they've been all invited residents, but I'm going to open it up, so I'll be taking applications, and then we'll see what happens. They're going to be creating something there.
Right. So you're doing a lot more than, you call yourself an art center, and you truly are. You're not just showing visual art. So I would imagine that sales of discrete artworks isn't as important to your business model as maybe some of the others. What is sort of your business model of how you're going to be able to, survive and afford to do all this?
I have to be, literally creative about it. I am completely dedicated to having a brick and mortar space. I really want, a big deal for me is to have audience or the public come in, because the public has an experience that literally changes their life by coming into a space and looking at artwork. That is a big deal to me. And I know 90% of them are not going to buy art, but something else happens when they see the work. And to me, that's huge. That being said, how to keep the lights on is going to be another level. So I'm moving towards more online stuff as far as art sales. We're going into Artwork Archive, putting that up actually as we speak. I hired a new assistant yesterday or a couple days ago, and she's awesome. So she's helping me. We're going to do events, which you came to last night, and hopefully we'll be able to do more, sort of expand these out. The residencies are going to be a situation where there's going to be a few that will be invited, and there are going to be the rest that are going to be apply. So the application process is going to be the thing that will help, I hope, sustain.
So they'll pay, in other words.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm not moving towards non-for-profit. Everybody asks me that. Non-for-profit at the moment anyway is really challenging. It's just not in my model at the moment. It's too, I don't want to let it go, first of all, and I want it to grow organically in a way that a non-for-profit makes it more difficult for.
And the last thing is, when we spoke on the phone, you mentioned something interesting you were doing with some clients or the bank that.
Oh, yes.
Just that.
So these are where these things, these threads are starting to come together. And so recently, PNC Bank has been my godsend for helping me with the loans and putting this space together. I have to give them, huge woohoo, thank you. And they have started this new process because of COVID, where they're also going online. They used to have these big galas for their major clients. And so they contacted me and said, would we be interested in doing something for their clients? Jan Harrison is going to be opening August 29th. And Jan Harrison's work is just phenomenal. She's a painter and a sculptor. She also is a performance artist. And her work, I think, will just lend itself very well. Michael Pope is going to be the director for this event. And Bree Olson is going to be the producer for it. So it's going to be a Zoom experience for their clients, but it's also going to be pre-made short films that go with it. And I hope that that will be something that will happen more, where there'll be sort of private showings rather than a paid sort of Zoom event. It'll be like for a smaller client that will hire us out to show these pieces.
Well, it all sounds great. I love your creativity, your ideas, and how alive your space is. And you just are, you're like amazing that you're here. So I'm really glad you came here to Saugerties, and I love your building. So thank you so much for sharing that with us.
I just want to say one thing is thank you because people are going to be exposed to things that they've never seen before and experiences they've never seen before. So I just commend Saugerties immensely and the whole Hudson Valley for just embracing this, because it is a risk. You came last night and people probably haven't seen anything like that before. And we had a couple of bumps trying to figure out how to, seat people at social distancing, but overall it's going to work. So
it was totally refreshing. So it was great. So thank you so much. Okay. So thank you. Okay. So now we're going to move to Kingston. Alan Goolman is a curator of the Lockwood Gallery, which is located on Route 28 in Kingston in a 1,300 square foot space adjacent to the architectural offices of Michael Lockwood. The gallery opened in January 2019 and has mounted concept-driven group shows featuring the work of mid-career and well-established artists, as well as emerging artists with exceptional talent. Alan is a consultant to the cosmetics industry, specializing in branding and creative marketing. He's previously curated art shows in Saugerties. In a curatorial statement, he notes that, quote, "My formal and intuitive understanding of color, how it works, and why sometimes it doesn't, has led me from globally recognized makeup artist for two of the world's most prestigious fashion, beauty, and fragrance houses to industry expert in applied color theory. It's the combination, all of the above, that brought me to curating." Alan.
Hi, Lynn. How are you?
Thanks for being here.
I want to thank the Woodstock Byrdcliffe Guild for inviting me to talk today. It's an extraordinary panel. First, a little bit about the gallery. The gallery is the brainchild of Michael Lockwood, the architect, and he had a fully operational architectural firm in here and decided that he needed to move that out to open the space for a gallery. I became the curator literally a year ago, August 10th, and we've been having an extraordinary time of it since then. A little bit about COVID and how it affected our business. We're a destination gallery. We're on Route 28. So if you're going to come here, you're meaning to come here. There's no walk-by business. And we literally closed down for a month, went fully online, and just recently reopened. And it was very interesting. People that came before came back. And we are now by appointment, as opposed to having an open gallery, generally allowing 2 people in at a time, face mask, social distancing. And we're back to our plan. All the shows have been pre-planned for a year. And so we're very excited. We're very excited, but we're very, very highly affected by having to shut the gallery down completely and then, do nothing but virtual for 2 shows. And now we've decided to keep the gallery as only by booking and by appointment, which you can do at thelogwoodgallery.com. We specialize in contemporary art, mostly artists, mid-career artists from the Hudson Valley. We stretch out from there as well. Our shows are generally very, very focused on a narrative. I like the idea of building shows where you're telling a story. And the first show was very interesting. I think I have some images. Yeah, so the first show, when I had a pop-up in Saugerties, I met a man who was the holder of the estate of Harold Roth. Harold Roth's photography, he was born in 1918 and he died in 2011. But his photography is really iconic in many collections around the world. And I had the opportunity to bring them in. This was our first logo and our first presentation. And we called this The Man Who Captured the Past. Next, please. The entire show was based upon really exploring the joy that was New York in the 40s and 50s and 30s. Next, please. The experience of really having nothing and having everything all at the same time. Next, please. This is Water Street in Manhattan, and it shows the joy of, and this is, I believe, 1936, and that sign behind the children and the mothers who are there is actually a sign that holds together the names of the people that died in World War II from the area. Next, please. This image, I found this image going through the files, and I thought how extraordinary. This was taken in I believe, 1977. And I remembered something about an artist named Susan Spencer Crowe, who had these extraordinary welded steel sculptures, which basically, they reminded me of towers more than anything else, but they were called urban columns. And when she started building them, next please. When she started building them, I really saw the connection there. She started building them and had this premonition of what might happen in New York City if there were some kind of disaster. And I said, I called her part the woman who saw the future. Next, please. And all four of the sculptures that we presented here were basically the explosion of the original tower. What was interesting about it to me was the fact that they were done in the 80s. So it was extraordinary that she had this vision to see them. Next, please. Okay. Just coming off a black and white show, it was really important to bring in color. It's what I'm about. And we did a show called In Pursuit of Color, which was 25 artists, almost all from the Hudson Valley. Next, please. And we featured artists such as, this is Andrew Light. We were so happy to have him take part. These are reminiscent of where he grew up in Guyana, the wood structures and the cave and rock drawings. And that's a lot of what his work is about. Next, please. This is David Provan. It's an amazing watercolor. I wish that everybody could see it in person. Again, it fulfilled our need of really needing to find color in our gallery. Next, please. This is what the installation looked like of the main room. We call this the conference room. The conference room is where all of the large statements are made. And in here, we have David Provan, we have Matthew Langley, and we have, I've gone blank. And
Ralph Mosley.
yeah, thanks. We did this before as well, Ralph Mosley. The most important part of this was I left Matthew random color, and with Ralph, I went from warm to cool coloring because I wanted to move the color in the show. Next, please. This was opening night of In Pursuit of Color. We had about 250 people. We were really on a roll just before everything kind of fell apart. And but it was an extraordinary night, and it was an extraordinary crowd, and we have an amazing following because of it. Next, please. Built. It seemed logical to me to create a show called Built, Architecture and Art and Design because of Michael being an architect. And I'm not going to show a lot of pictures here, but I want to talk about Tom Fruin. Those of you who are familiar with Tom Fruin's large sculptures there around the world installed in, for instance, in Brooklyn, there's an 80-foot plexiglass water tower that everybody seems to know. We had the opportunity to show his small works. It was the first time they were ever shown. And I just want to show you the installation shot of this. Can we have the next slide, please? This is the installation in the front room of the gallery. And working with Tom was an extraordinary moment for us. And next. Kurt Steger. Kurt Steger was not an architect. The show had 5 architects in it. He was one of the only non-architects in the show. But talking about architectural work, his work is absolutely brilliant. This piece is actually 2 pieces. The wooden structure is actually fed onto the rock, and it has a mandible on the inside. Next, please. Smoke show. Smoke show happened because of a painting that I was presented with by a man named Kenneth Wenger, who lives here in Bearsville. And it caused, could we do something a little more racy, a little more exciting, a little, just to see what happens. Next, please. This is the original image. It's a 5-foot photograph that is hand embellished with charcoal and chalk. And it's absolutely exquisite. So this was the impetus for doing smoke show. Now, the word smoke show is actually in the vernacular. A smoke show is a person or a thing that is so hot that you can practically the smoke rising off it. And that was the whole theme of the show. And moving on, next please. To that point, Kat Howard created the piece in the back called Writhe. It's a 7-foot piece. And it literally looks like it's writhing. In the middle is Robert George and Kat Howard in the front. And this is called a smoke portrait, literally. It was by accident that I found it. And it's the remnant, she described it as the remnant of the burning of witches, and the smoke that's left creates this extraordinary shape. Cat Howard, brilliant fiber artist. Next, please. Okay, form, height, width, depth. This happened during the sculpture show, the International Sculptors Day period of time, and this is the show that was done entirely online. It was magnificent and it was a shame, but this was right at the height of the pandemic. We closed the doors and we kept going right through that to keep the gallery alive. Next, please. This is my cockerel. It's a suite of 7 bronzes. The woman in the rose-colored woman, the rose patina, is actually the curator. The figure on the right is the guard for the gallery, and extraordinary pieces, part of exactly what you'd expect from Michael Cockerell. Next, please.
Alan, how large are those pieces?
They're 17 inches tall.
Oh, they're small, okay.
Yeah, they're 17 inches tall, and they, seeing them in context, and I have so many other images, it was impossible to put them in because I got, we went over time last time. But the personality he's able to build into small, unbelievable works of sculpture, and if you know his art, his paintings, they're extraordinary. I'm moving on, please. This is Kurt Steger again in another place. Everything about this piece was who we are as a gallery, and it met so much of what the needs were for the sculpture show. So I decided to show this as well. Moving on. Okay, Wallflowers. Wallflowers was the show that I thought I would never do. It was about flowers, and it was interesting. When I finally went out and started to meet other artists who, that I thought might work for the show, and then I brought in Carol Struve to co-curate with me, all of a sudden pieces started to happen. This work, which always looked like a sushi menu to me, but this piece is actually, the pieces are Beth Humphrey. Exceptional work. We did an entire wall of these in the gallery, and we list every other artist in the show. Next, please. Joy Taylor. Joy Taylor's work was such a surprise, and she's such a wonderful artist. But again, this is what happens when you do a flower show and you really find ways to talk about it in a very, very new way. Next, please. Carol Struve. Carol Struve created 8 monoprints. This was one of them. I couldn't resist the color of this, but she really is a master at the art of making monoprints. Next, please. Okay. The show, next to last show that we did is called Magical Thinking. The concept was, how do you feel good about yourself, and how do you feel good about what you're doing in a time when there's so much going wrong? And we found really it was magic in this show. This is Galen Chaney. This piece is 81 inches long by 70, I believe, 2 inches wide. It had to be rolled. It's only ever rolled. It's never been put on a stretcher. But this really was the centerpiece of that show. Next, please. Okay. Also, so 2 Galen Cheneys. This shows the gallery itself, the conference room, the show wall, the entry wall, and in the back, Merrill Meisler, who's a sculptor who really captured the 70s and early 80s. She's renowned for it. Next, please. This is also Galen Chaney. It's called Bloom, a huge painting that gets put on and off the stretcher because there's just no way to move it. Next, please. Magical Thinking. Magical Thinking really, in those days, was Studio 54. and Fire Island. And Merrill's photographs capturing this particular time are astounding. And I wish you could see them all because they're truly wonderful. But this really says it all. It's magical. And at time it was pre-HIV and everybody was being crazy and it was a magical time. Next, please.
We've got 1 more minute, Alan.
Okay. Oh, no.
I keep having to
This
press
image,
the ball, because
image became the talk of the show. This was taken on Long Island. I found it very, very amusing, and it was very well loved. Next, please. The kiss in leather jackets. I thought that was a great way to end this particular show. And now next, let's see what's here. Our current show. Our current show is 2 gems, two artists, Jenny Nelson and Janice LaMotta, both treasures of the Hudson Valley. And this is Michael starting to hang the show. Next, please. A pair of paintings by Janice LaMotta, 12 by 12 square, called Scratch 1 and Scratch. Next, please. And this is the whole concept of the show, is how do you take pieces by artists that wouldn't necessarily ever show together and find a way to find a relationship because of color and shapes and geometry and that kind of thing. That's the entry wall. And the next piece is, again, it shows how even by accident, the palette can work and the palette could find each other and how these artists found each other. Next, please. And that's the full wall of both combinations and both pairs. And that's the presentation. Thank you.
Well, thank you. You know, I think those photos show your incredible eye and your gift at knowing how to show how works work together. As you said, start another narrative because of the way they speak to each other. And I can't wait to see this show. I'm a huge fan of Jenny Nelson, and I don't know Janice's work, but I really look forward to that.
I think it's a great show.
Yes, I definitely will be there. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, so now we move down to Beacon. Franklin Parrasch opened Parts and Labor in Beacon with Nicelle Bouchain. Am I pronouncing that correct, Franklin? Is Franklin there? Have we lost him? I know he was there before. I hope we didn't lose him. Well, I'll keep reading the intro and hopefully we'll find him.
I don't see him on the list of participants anymore.
He was there.
I know
he said his Zoom froze. Do you know what he can do?
I don't know.
Can you get back on? I'm texting him. Well, anyway, I'm going to read the introduction.
Oh, he just came.
Okay, great.
Just let him in.
Great. Okay.
And now I have to find him and unmute him. He's probably at the very end of this thing. Ah, here we go. Unmute.
Okay, Franklin, you're back.
I'm back.
Can you hear me?
On the dog.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to be introducing you, and hopefully by the time I'm done, we'll be able to see you. So anyway, Franklin Parrasch opened Parts and Labor in Beacon with, and am I pronouncing Nicelle's name correctly? Nicelle Bouchain?
Nicelle Bouchain.
Nicelle Bouchain in May 2019. Both Franklin and Nicelle are longtime New York City gallery owners. Nicelle's gallery is located on the Lower East Side. Franklin Parrasch is on the Upper East Side with a branch in Los Angeles. Parts and Labor, located on the second floor of a historic brick building that once served as a garage, was conceived as a collaborative space and formed for combining and pairing works by contemporary artists with more historically recognized ones. In pairing artists of different generations, the gallery's objective is to create narratives that explain the connections to the impulses and inclinations each pair of artists share. Last month, the gallery exhibited quilts made by 6 quilt makers from Gee's Bend, Alabama, and recent work by 6 contemporary artists, reflecting elements of storytelling and abstraction rooted in the history of the Gee's Bend quilts. Now, I had never been to your gallery before until Saturday, and it was such a delight to be there. So welcome, and the floor is yours.
All right, thanks. It's really fun to hear all the different discussions of everyone else's galleries, because I'm not familiar with a lot of them, and it's really good to hear. And some great work being shown, which is also really great, and I'll get out and hopefully see a lot of it. I recently entered the Hudson Valley area as a gallerist. My gallery's been around for quite a while, but this is a recent project that Nicole and I have put together. And we started a year ago, and it's just a project space open only on the weekends. But the program is designed to work with New York and other major galleries and bring in artists that we normally don't show in our galleries in the city, and bring them to within a half-mile of Dia Beacon. And the different generations highlight the aspect of collaboration and the idea that ideas can translate from one generation to the next. So it's a program that is really working with artists who are shown nationally and internationally. And it's something that allows us to do things that we normally can't do in our own galleries. What I wanted to talk about, and why I'm so eager to be part of this, is to sort of reflect on the pre-COVID and COVID situations and how they've differed, and how I might want to just sort of share my experience, and hopefully that can be of some kind of significance to other people. But what we were doing was, we were obviously open to the public. There wasn't any by appointment situation. We just sometimes be at the gallery ourselves. We always have a staff member there on the weekends. But business was relatively okay, and we got a fair amount of press. We got a New York Times article and some other articles. But once COVID hit, we had to reconfigure our way of working, obviously, as did everyone. And we had some major shows lined up that we definitely did not want to have to cancel or postpone. So we really had to pull together things and get material from, obviously, Gee's Bend, Alabama, and all over New York as well, and put together our first show opening after COVID. And we had our opening back in late June, and it was a by appointment opening, which was interesting, so that we were able to get people to come in no more than 6 at a time, and be part of that experience. And then from that point on, the business really took a very turn for the busier, and we've been very busy, really, with making. We have appointments every half hour, and they're pretty much all booked, and so that's allowed us to focus really on clients coming in and what they're interested in. And it's actually changed our business for the better in a lot of ways. Because instead of just sitting around waiting for people to come, we know who's coming, when they're coming, and they can meet us, and we can focus on them. So that's been a big help. And of course, there's the online element as well. And as you sort of have experienced, I'm the biggest Luddite in the business, and I really have no idea how to use technology. So the idea of surviving primarily on computer images is anathema to me, but it seems to be working. And what I just really want to say is that now in this COVID generation, or whatever we're going to call this, I think every gallery, wherever you are, is no longer local. It's always international. And everything you do is accessible internationally. And it's just as meaningful in your town as it is in New York or London or Beijing. Nowhere is more prominent than any other place. And that's really leveled the playing field. And I think for the galleries in our area, I think this is a big advantage and something to focus on, something to avail yourselves to. And I think we're in a really good position, all of us, because we are the place where New Yorkers are coming to, and where people from all over, the East Coast are coming to, because it's a desirable place to be. And there is great art around here, and we have access to great art, and we can show great art. So there's nothing holding any of these galleries, all of my colleagues here, back at all anymore. And there's no need to be in New York any more than anywhere else.
Wow.
So that's my main thought that I wanted to share.
First of all, I want to apologize. I mispronounced Nikel's name. It's Nikel, not Nicelle.
Right.
So sorry about that. So let me ask you something, because you mentioned, we spoke on the phone, that we talked, there was an article that came out in the New York Times about how a lot of galleries were opening in the Hamptons, and sort of like this just follows this huge huge numbers of people leaving the city. Is your gallery in the city still open? And are you finding that the activity up here?
We have hardly any activity at all.
So it's more active up here than it is in the city?
I mean, it's very, very active in Beacon, extremely. We really, we've never seen anything like it. And then, we also have a gallery in Los Angeles. So that's quite a bit different, because, there's a parking lot, and it's, a wide open space, and there's, no sense of risk. And I think people are driving and going to appointments there on a regular basis. But here it's continuously active. We have half-hour appointments. For the G's Ben show, it was booked every half hour. In fact, people were, waiting at the doors for their appointments. And, it was very consistent, was very busy, really.
Well, that is fantastic news. Now, I wanted you to mention the show that's up now that I went to see on Saturday, which is Lois Dodd, kind of a blue chip artist in her 90s. I'm a huge fan of hers, with, if I make sure I'm pronouncing this correctly, Shara Hughes, who I assume is a younger artist from Brooklyn. And just tell us a little bit about that, how that came about.
Well, Shara Hughes is internationally shown and recognized artist. And commercially, she's among the hottest artists in the world right now. So there's just, endless interest in her work from every part of the globe. And the conversation came up with her about showing with us, and she said she'd be interested if she could show with Lois Dodd. And, we were able to arrange that, and we had a meeting of the two artists, and brought Lois to Shara's studio, and it was a great connection. And I think both artists were really inspired by it. I think it was certainly, obviously, Shara was, but I think Lois felt a great connection as well, and felt like it was, she had met someone she felt really secure in passing a baton to. So it was really inspiring. And I think—
She hadn't met her before. Lois had not met Shara before this.
No, I don't think she even knew the work prior either.
Wow.
That's kind of the purpose of our gallery, is to foster these relationships and make these connections, and these almost like collaborations, in a sense that they're collaborating in their desire to participate in this and do this show. And they sort of exchanged images with each other, and knew what each other were going to show, so that it would kind of make sense to each artist. And so and that is kind of the mission of our gallery too, is to have that sensibility of collaboration.
Now, have you known Nikel for a long time? I mean, you both—
Yeah.
And so you had talked about this idea. I mean, I love the idea of collaborating and kind of
Mhm.
bringing these two different sensibilities together.
Mhm.
Do you guys have sort of equal say, or how does that collaboration
Yeah,
work?
yeah. I mean, we're two different generations, obviously, so we have different ways of coming about things. But we had been showing at art fairs together, and we even did a booth together once in Dallas. And we said maybe we should collaborate on something.
Huh.
And
So you have been participating, art fairs is a big part of your
art
business
fairs until
until COVID hit.
well now, yeah. We had done 3 in the course of 1 month between mid February and early March, and and then no more. But
So my last question is, how did you guys come up with the name Parts and Labor?
I had that name in mind for a while. It was the name of an indie band in the 90s that I liked, and I always thought it would be a good name for a gallery. But the fact that this place had been like a Porsche garage, it was for vintage Porsches, and I thought, oh well, this is perfect because it is a garage, so we'll call it Parts and Labor.
Great. Well, you have a great space. It's on the 2nd floor, but because you can go in the back, it's like a ground floor gallery, and it sort of reminds me of Jen's a little bit because it's brick. Looks like it was built in the 19th century.
Yeah, it was right. It
and
used to be the
great
town
place.
inn.
Sorry?
It was the town inn at one point. Yeah.
Wow. So very historic. So I'm
It is,
glad
yeah.
you're here, and I'm glad that the prognosis looks good for the Hudson Valley, because I know it's
It is.
been difficult for a lot of people. So that's
It's
encouraging.
really good. I think it's going to get stronger. I talked to a lot of dealers in New York who are actually looking at the possibility of opening spaces in this area. So I think you'll see more.
Well, one thing in visiting all the different galleries that you guys represent is that I really hope that we never move online entirely. I mean, there's nothing like seeing a work of art in a physical space. It's just not the same as
If
being
that happens, I won't be part of it. I can
Yeah,
tell you.
so, and there's talk about the traditional retail galleries not doing well. So it's really encouraging to see what you're doing and to see that people are attracted to this. And there is an audience for this. And I almost think that after COVID, whenever it ends, and who knows when that will be,
Right.
people are going to be desperate for in-person experiences. So maybe there will be a huge move towards, more hands-on, more in-person as a response. Because I know for myself, I'm really grateful that Byrdcliffe is doing this, but I can't wait till panels are in person.
Yeah.
And we don't have to deal with the technology, even as the technology is certainly a lifesaver. Well, thank you. Well, thank you, everyone. So now if anyone has any questions, you could send them in. You could on chat with your name or without, whatever you prefer, and then I can read them to our panelists. And in the meantime, let's see. So if anyone would like to follow, any one of the other panelists would like to follow up on Franklin's remarks, about the huge interest. I mean, have you found, Alan and Jen, and Linden had to leave at 6, but yeah, Jen, what is your response to that?
I opened my doors after COVID, what was it, 2-3 weeks ago. And I've had nonstop people through the door. It's been amazing. And I'm not doing it by appointments because my space is so huge. And it doesn't seem to be a problem. I have people coming in one door and just circling around and going out the back. But the majority of people that are coming in are from Philadelphia, New York City, LA, and Europe.
Wow.
So flabbergasted.
Yeah, so this is one thing I'm hearing from everyone that, and I actually just read an article about some of the Kingston galleries and how they're faring. And the two that I spoke with said that most of their customers are not from Kingston. I mean, they tend to be from elsewhere, the city or New England, Europe.
Europe, a lot of Europeans.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing that there seem to be a lot more visitors coming in than locals. Is that something, I mean, Alan, what have you found with,
Well,
I guess you're still sort of recovering, right?
Right. Well, it's interesting because we decided not to open, but to only go by booking. And I found, just like Franklin, or we found, that our business is stronger since than it has been, because people need to make it, again, because we're a destination gallery, you're not just going to walk by. You have to make a decision to come here. It's better. It's much better since. It's surprising, actually.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. One thing I'm hearing from some of the Kingston galleries I was talking to is that the days of like an opening, here in Kingston, like I think same in Beacon, same in Hudson, there would be a first Saturday or second Friday, whatever it would be, gallery opening, and everybody would come and it would be mobbed, as that picture you showed indicates. And then, nothing would happen much until the next month. And a couple people I spoke with said they just don't see that model like being very effective. And who knows when we're going to feel comfortable being in a crowded room, elbow to elbow. It could be a couple years.
We're very fortunate that we have an enormous outdoor space in the parking lot. So we are getting a fairly decent sized crowd. We always hire a bouncer now, a door person to manage the people going in and out.
Well, like the old club days of Studio
Exactly. Yeah, we're just like Studio 54, only different. No, but it works because people feel safer. If they know there's only maybe 2, 3, 4 people in a gallery at a time, and we set up chairs 6 feet apart outside, you can have 40, 50 people and everybody feeling comfortable. Not the same, but it's great. Great.
And one advantage of doing it by appointment, as Franklin said, or by limiting, as you and Jen are doing, is that you can actually see the art now.
Yes.
I would go to openings, you couldn't see a thing.
Yeah, that's true.
And Jen, in terms of 11 Jane Street, those galleries are much smaller, is my memory.
Yes.
So how are you controlling, how are you, like when Jan Harrison's show opens August 29th, that's going to be at Jane Street, not at Newbury. So how are you going to manage that?
Well, as it's working with the Newbury building, I honestly don't feel like it's going to be a problem as long as I don't have an quote art opening. The same with the wine and cheese. We can't do that. We just can't. I don't have space to do it. It doesn't make sense. But I'm having longer hours. Friday, Saturday, 12 to 6, Sunday, 12 to 5. And if it becomes a problem, I will have people wait at the door. But honestly, it seems like there's a steady flow in the village, and people come next door to go to the cafe. They go get lunch or they get a cup of coffee, then they come walk through the gallery. I don't foresee it being a problem, honestly, as long as we don't have crammed people in for performances and people wear masks. They have to be smart about it. We can keep the doors open for the airflow. People are hungry to get out and see work, and it's just, they're very excited.
Right, and it seems like, movie theaters aren't going to be opening for a very long time. Restaurants inside are probably not going to be opening. So, art galleries in a way are one of the few cultural outlets we have now.
Exactly, and then we can do stuff in the windows too. We're showing stuff in the windows. So the Newbury building has events in the windows. We're going to have video events in the windows. We've got artwork in the windows. So if they feel uncomfortable coming in, they can see what's going on outside. And we're working on trying to figure out other types of things we can do outside. We can do projections. We're brainstorming is basically it, to try and kind of cover all the bases and be creative about it.
Right. Do any three of you have any idea of what you'd be doing after when we cover the shows that are upcoming? Can you talk about what's after that, or that's still too far in the future?
I have my calendar done.
Okay, can you give us some preview of the future?
Sure. After Jenny Nelson and Janice LaMotta, I'm going to have my first one-person show with Jim Hall.
Oh, I love Jim Hall. I interviewed him a few months ago. Yeah.
What a story. The narrative is wild. It's going to be great. It's going to be fun. And if you know Jim's work. So.
And he was like there throughout the 70s. He was like a conceptual artist. Big time.
He's wonderful, and I love working with him. I've curated him before at Cross Contemporary, so that was really great. And then we're doing something really fun. We are doing the teachers show from the Woodstock School of Art, which I think is going to be great for us.
Yeah.
It's just they can't do it there, so we decided to do it here.
Oh, great. And so you'll have Jenny again, because she is one of the
Jenny
popular teachers.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Okay.
My understanding is everyone is participating, so it's going to be really fun.
Great. And Franklin, can you tell us after the Lois Dodd, Shara Hughes show, what's coming up?
It doesn't have a title yet, but we've asked one of Nikel's artists, who's Nigerian born, to curate a show of contemporary artists along with African sculpture, African artifacts from a very important dealer of African artifacts in New York, Amias Negley. So he's going to be curating from Amias Negley's collection, and then curating contemporary artists whose work corresponds or responds to those objects. And that's coming up in November.
Sounds fabulous. Can't wait. Sounds great. I mean, you really are showing, like, as you said, international, kind of giving us a taste of the international world here up in the Hudson Valley.
Thanks. Yeah, I think, you know, there's no reason you can't do anything you want here now.
Great. And Jen, what about, you know, you have so much going on right now, but is there anything you'd like to say about your upcoming Jan show?
Yeah, Jan show. Jan is
That'll be up for how long?
August 29th to October 4th, and I've got Michael Pope is going to do a full installation. Jane Street right now is solo artist only, and they're using both galleries. So it's a big deal to let the artist build an installation in a gallery. And so it's Jan Harrison, Michael Pope, Deborah Priestley, and then that takes us to December. And then December, we're going to kind of see what's happening. And next year, some of the artists that weren't shown this year, we've got Renee Moncada coming. Nora Magnuson is going to do a solo show. And I've got a couple other people in the works who are, Andrew Newman might come back and build an installation video project. So we'll see.
Great. Well, I mean,
what that planned.
it's so great that we have something to look forward to. That's not on our screen.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, I think that wraps it up. Doug, you're on, Doug. Doug, do you want to say something? I think we're all out of time. Yeah. Did you want to say something? Are we done? I think we're out of time.
Well,
so.
I was going to, well, we have a few minutes. I was just going to say, if you missed any of this and you want to see it from the beginning, or you want to share it with friends, colleagues, etc., it will be posted to the Byrdcliffe site in about a week. And beyond that, maybe another week or so beyond that, it will be on the Byrdcliffe YouTube channel, which is very nice and is being populated with more things. Let me mention again that on September 14th, the next event we're having is a Woodstock Masters event featuring the artist Heather Hutchinson, interviewed by the art critic Eleanor Hartney. Save that date, same time. And just by way of closing, let me of course thank Lynn Woods, who helped to organize this with me, and of course moderated it beautifully. Thank you. And also to thank, of course, all of our panelists for appearing with us. Our Zoom operator, Judy Kerman, and Kat. The Director of Exhibitions at Byrdcliffe, Carlin Benson, and the Byrdcliffe staff. And thank you all for attending. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And have a nice rest of the day, everyone. And again, thanks again. I really enjoyed your comments. Very valuable. So take care. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.